Alright, I'm Sheldon. I'm a student worker here at the Innovation Hub, and today I'm going to be showing you how to use the vinyl cutter. The vinyl cutter is for cutting out vinyl stickers, so you can make labels for your projects and things like that, and you can also make stickers for your vehicles or your laptop. We also have t-shirt vinyl, so you can cut out vinyl and make a t-shirt with it. So there's lots of different things you can do with this. Today we're just going to be working with regular vinyl. We actually sell vinyl here that you can use on the machine. You can also buy your own, but it comes on rolls. We buy it in rolls, and then whenever you buy it from us, you'll just cut off however much you decide to buy. So today we're going to be using this piece of vinyl, and I'm going to go ahead and show you how to set up the machine right now. So when you're ready to set up the vinyl cutter after you've got your piece of vinyl cut, the first thing you're going to want to do is turn on the power button, which is right down here. And then I'm going to get the vinyl loaded into the machine. So when you're loading the vinyl into the machine, you've got these little rollers here which move the vinyl, and you've also got these other rollers that hold the vinyl on there. So what I'm going to do is place the vinyl on here, and it has to be on these rollers here. And you can see here that where the rollers are, they also have a mark there, so you know where they're at. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on here. Now when you're placing this on here, one thing that's important is that the vinyl cutter is only going to cut between these outer two rollers here. So if I were to put the vinyl right here, it's only going to cut here, even though this is 24 inches wide. So make sure that you spread these out when you're placing this on here. And another important thing is this is a little optical sensor. There's one here and one on the back. That's how it measures the vinyl in the length. So you also have to make sure that that's covered by the vinyl. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on here between these black marks on here. And when you put the roller down, you just flip the back of it up, and then it will flip down and hold the vinyl in place. And now the vinyl is loaded into the machine. Now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to set it up with the control panel right here. So after you have your vinyl loaded into the machine, now what we're going to do is set up the settings here on the screen to get it to measure the piece of vinyl, and also to set up the speed and the force that it's going to be cutting at. So the first thing that I'm going to do, when you turn on the screen, or when you turn on the vinyl cutter, you'll notice that the screen says select sheet. And so the first option is a roll. That's what we were talking about before with the roll here. This is a roll. Most likely what you'll be doing is using a piece of vinyl, because you'll cut your piece of vinyl off of there. So what I'm going to do is hit the down arrow right here, and then it's going to say piece, and then I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to go through and measure the vinyl. So right now it's measuring the width, and then it will move back and forth between the optical sensors to measure the length. And then once it does that, it'll give you a readout of the size of your piece of vinyl, and then we'll take that size and put it into the computer on the later section of the video. Now what I'm going to do is set up the speed and the force. The speed varies on what type of sticker you're going to be cutting out. If you're cutting out really large letters, you could probably bump the speed up to about 10 centimeters per second. If you're cutting out really small letters or small logo, you would want to run the vinyl cutter at maybe 1 or 2 centimeters per second. So it really varies. And then the force also varies depending on how new the blade is. This is the blade of the vinyl cutter here, and when it's new, you need less force to cut through the vinyl. So I'll show you how to change the different settings and how to test and see whether or not it's going to cut correctly. So what I'm going to do first is choose the speed setting right here. I'm going to click on that, and then the speed will show up here. Right now it's set to 6 centimeters per second. I'll probably put it at 5 centimeters per second to cut out what we're going to be cutting out today. So right now it's at 5, and then I'm going to push enter again, and now the speed has been changed to 5 centimeters per second. And you can adjust it 5, 6, 7, 8, 1 centimeter at a time. Now what I'm going to do is set up the force. I'm going to click force, which is right next to speed, and it's set to 70 grams right now. the force adjusts 10 grams at a time. So I'm probably going to bump this up to 80 to cut out today, but I am going to test it first and make sure that that's the right setting. So I'm going to push up to 80 and then push enter again like before, and now the speed is set to 5 centimeters per second and the force is set to 80. So now I'm going to go ahead and test this. I'm going to click test right here, and then it's going to go through and cut a little test, and then we can check and see if that cuts out correctly. So you might have to hold it down or push it twice. So it cuts out a little circle, and then right now I'm going to check and make sure that it cut all the way through and didn't cut too far. So we'll go ahead and do that right now. Also, the little carriage that holds the blade can move, so I'm going to go ahead and move that out of the way and then grab a X-Acto knife. And basically what you want, I can move this, is you want to make sure that the vinyl, or it didn't go all the way through the backing paper, but that it did go through the vinyl. So I'm going to go ahead and peel up this little circle here. So, and then the circle came off, so that means that it cut through and it did not cut through the back. So that'll work fine. Alright, so now that we have the force set and the speed set, and we've tested it to make sure that that's the right settings that we want to use, we're pretty much good to jump on the computer and start working on the computer section of the workshop. So this is CorelDRAW. We're going to go ahead and go over the CorelDRAW section of the workshop right now. The first thing I'm going to do is create a new file. So I'm just going to hit new file right there and press OK. The one important thing to do in the beginning is to change the size of your page so that it matches the size that the vinyl cutter measured our vinyl to be. So I'm going to go ahead and put those numbers in here.
Still didn't cut. Bump down to 20.
Alright, so now we got the page size in here. It's 22.8 and 10.5. The next thing I'm going to cover is on the left side of the screen here. We've got some basic shape tools. I'm not going to cover all of these, but I'll cover the important ones. This first one here is the pick tool. So this is how you would select different objects and stuff like that. This is important because if you say we're going to draw some boxes or something, you're just going to keep drawing boxes until you go back to the pick tool, and then you can actually select the boxes and change different things about them. So that's what the pick tool does. Down here we've got the line tool, so you can draw different lines with the line tool. If you click and hold, it will draw a line like that. If you click and then click to there, it'll draw a straight line. Also, in the corner of each one of these little tools here, you've got this little black arrow. If you click that, it gives you a bunch of different options for lines. So say, for example, the pen tool, instead of just drawing one line, it will draw a bunch of lines until you close the shape, and then it will stop drawing lines. Also, you've got, say, the three-point curve. So this one will draw different curved lines like that. So there's different options in each one of these things when you click on that little black arrow. Next, you've got some shape tools here. You've got squares, circles, and a polygon tool. When you draw different shapes, like squares for example, when you have the square tool selected, it gives you some options to change the squares. So right now it's drawing just regular rectangles, but you could put a radius on the corners, or you could go an inside radius, something like that. So there's different options up here that you can use when drawing different shapes. And same thing goes for circles. You could do a quarter of a circle or a full circle, and then the polygon tool will let you draw multiple, or will allow you to change the number of sides different shapes have. So different options up there for tools when you have different things selected. Then you've also got the text tool right here. The text tool is for writing text out. So if you wanted to cut some text out on the vinyl cutter to label something, you would use the text tool. And what I would recommend doing, instead of drawing a text box and starting to type, what I would recommend doing is clicking and then starting to type. And the reason why I would recommend that is because when you go to move it around or change the size of it, when you don't have it in a text box, you can change the size like this, whereas with the text box, it just makes the box bigger. So with this one, you would have to come in here and highlight this, and then increase the font size to make that larger. So normally I don't draw text boxes and don't recommend doing that. And so yeah, that's pretty much all of the tools on the side here that I use. Now what I'm going to show you is how to actually get the shapes that you draw to cut out properly. So I'm going to use some rectangles as some examples here. Maybe we'll draw 3 here and pretend like we want to cut these out. So on the right side of the screen here, you've got the object properties. This is where you're going to be able to adjust different parts or different things about the shapes themselves. So if this is ever closed like this, the way you bring the object properties back up is if you right click and press object properties down here, it'll bring this little window back up. And then whenever you select a shape, it will give you some options to change things about the shape. So the 2 correct ways I'll do with these 2 squares, we actually only need 2, or well, I'll leave that one there. The 2 correct ways to get things to cut are, this will be the first way. The first way is to change the width of the line to hairline. And if we zoom in here, you can kind of see this is the thinnest line possible that you can draw. And the other part, so it's hairline, and also if you go to fill here, it has no fill selected. So right now, this shape is see-through. It doesn't have any fill. It's not filled with anything. So this is the first correct way to get something to cut. The second way, what I'm going to do is go back to the outline tool, make this have no outline, and then go into the fill and make it have a fill like this. So this one will also cut correctly. Now this one here has a width of 0.5. What's going to happen if you have a line that has a 0.5 width, or say for example if it was 4 width, it doesn't really matter. What's going to happen is the blade of the vinyl cutter is going to cut along the outside of this line and on the inside of this line, whereas with this one that's hairline, the blade of the vinyl cutter is just going to cut right along the very center of this line right here. And then same thing with this shape, the blade of the vinyl cutter is just going to cut on the outside of this filled shape right here. So whenever you have an outline that's not hairline, it's going to cut the shape twice, which you want to avoid, so you don't want to do that. So the 2 correct ways, hairline and no fill, or no outline and fill. Those are the 2 correct ways. Now a couple things to watch out for. Say for example if this shape here had a fill that was white, it's kind of hard to tell that this is filled with white, but if you move it over here you can see that it's no longer see-through. So what's going to happen is this will cut on the outside of the hairline and on the outside of the fill. So this will cut twice even though it looks correct right here. And then same thing with this, if this is filled with black and has an outline that's also black, it's kind of hard to tell that this has an outline and a fill, but this would also cut twice. So those are a couple things to watch out for. So now what I'm going to do is show you how to create other pictures or other things on CorelDRAW. It's kind of hard to draw, logos and stuff with just these tools that we have over here. So what I'm going to do is show you how to bring in an image off of the internet and cut that out. So once the internet opens, I'll go ahead and find something to cut. Now when you're choosing an image that you want to cut, the best thing to do is to pick an image that is the largest size image possible. So you can select the settings so that the size is large and then pick one. When you're deciding one to pick, you don't want to pick things like this. You want to pick solid logos like this one here. Different things like this are not going to work. Essentially what's going to happen is I'm going to convert this to a vector so that it cuts out correctly on the vinyl cutter. So I'll probably go with this one because it has a bunch of different logos. I'm just going to copy this and then paste this into CorelDRAW here. Alright, and we'll probably put a couple of these in here. because there's a couple things that I'll do differently on both of these. So right now, this is just an image file, so you can see it's all pixely. It's not going to cut this. What I have to do is convert this into a vector. So the way you do that is right-click your picture or image file, go to Outline Trace right here, and then I always choose this option called Detailed Logo. If it asks you to reduce the bitmap, go ahead and press Reduce Bitmap. That'll be fine. And then this will have to load in here, and then we'll adjust some of the settings if we need to. So once this loads, I'll start changing some of the settings here. And once it's done, I'll be able to zoom in here, and you'll be able to see that this is no longer an image file. It gets turned into a vector file. So that's kind of what happens there. And essentially what it does is it looks at wherever there's color differences, so maroon and gold here, and then it draws a line wherever it sees a color difference. So some of the options you might have to change up here, the first one will be detail. So the reason why you might want to change detail is, for example, the smaller parts of the image are not being included. So you can see the A, part of the A is not there, and then part of the pitchfork of this one's not here. The letters are kind of all missing the middle of their thing. So I would increase the detail so that it looks the way I want it to, and then once it looks the way I want it to, I'm going to stop increasing the detail. So you can see I did that. It's still got the middle of the A kind of looking a little bit weird, and it's missing that part. You would want to just keep increasing it. If you put it up too much, so I'll put it up all the way, what it's going to do is start picking up things that you don't want it to pick up. So like you can kind of see here that it's got a lot of these things in from the hand here. Also you can see that parts of the pitchfork are showing up now. This little spot right there will cut on the vinyl cutter. So you kind of want to avoid all of that. The outside of this yellow part here is on there like that. So that's what happens when you put the detail up too high. So I'll put it back to where it was, since this big pitchfork looked fine before. Some of the other options, delete original image. So with this checked, it will get rid of the original image when you press OK. Remove background. That's why that white box is not there. When I unremove the background, the white box is there. And one thing to watch out for with the background is if I press OK right now, this is going to have a white box here that will cut on the vinyl cutter. So you might want to watch out for that. Even though it's a white box and you won't be able to see it, it will still cut. So I normally remove the background. Just have it automatically choose the color of the background. Don't mess with this other setting here. And then these last three options, what they do is merge adjacent objects and then remove overlap. And so I'm just going to do that one with those boxes checked. And then I'm going to do the second one with these boxes not checked. That way you'll be able to kind of see the difference between the two, because it's kind of hard to explain. And then once this loads, I'll go ahead and press OK here. We can cut this out of the video, the loading process. Alright, so this is loaded, and now I have these boxes unchecked. I'm going to go ahead and press OK. Now what I'm going to do is show you the differences between these two options here. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to ungroup these. Right now they're all grouped together, so I can't select individual parts of this. So I'm going to right click this and press ungroup all right here. So that's been ungrouped. Now I can move different parts of this. Also, when you ungroup something, right click ungroup. Right now I still have all of this selected, so it's still going to move around. I have to unselect this, and then I can move certain parts of this. So that's how that works. And then what I'll do is get rid of the parts that I don't want to be on here. Oops. And then same thing with this one. Right now, to select multiple things, I'm just holding Shift to highlight multiple things. Okay, so this one has the overlap removed, or not removed, and then this one has it removed. The difference between these two, you kind of could already see this, but when I move this one, this is a shape on top of a shape, and this one is a shape inside of a shape. So they both will cut, but the difference is, with this one thing you got to watch out for is, technically speaking, it will cut along the outside of this yellow shape and the inside of the red shape here. Whereas with this one, if you get rid of the yellow shape, it's only going to cut the red part. So if you have the overlap removed, what I would do is go in and delete all of the yellow here so that it's not there anymore, and both of these now will cut out exactly the same. Also, the other thing you could do is change this to be hairline and have no fill, and this will cut out also exactly the same. So that's the difference between these two, and now both of these objects will cut out exactly the same, which is good. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this one, and now we'll talk about sizing so that we can get it sized and put on the page in the right spot. So for sizing, we have the page size up here. Whenever you highlight an object, it gives you the object size. So I can make this size whatever I want and then have it fit on the page. Also, along with the sizing, you've also got the this lock ratio button right here. What this does, with the ratio not locked, if I adjust one of these sizes, it's only going to make the object smaller in that direction, or a different size in that direction. Whereas with this locked, it's going to make the whole thing smaller. So both of those are useful. Say, for example, if you're trying to draw a perfect square, you would want to unlock this and then make each one the right size, and now you've got a perfect square. What I'm going to do now is change the size of this so that it fits on the page. So we'll go ahead and start right now. What I'm going to do with this is I'm going to lock the ratio, and then I'll make this 6 inches tall. That way it fits on the page over here. You can also, when changing the size, you can also just drag these to get it to be whatever size you want. This is just a good way to get it to be an exact size. When you're dragging it around, you can just click it and drag it to be wherever you want. One thing to watch out for is if you don't have the whole thing selected and you start dragging parts around, because it's ungrouped, you'll get certain parts of it. So you want to highlight the whole thing and then drag it. Also, since I'm done messing with this, I could also highlight this, right-click, press group again, and now I don't have to worry about that. So that's something else you could do. When you're moving it around, you can either move it to a certain part, certain spot on the page, or also next to the object size, you've got the position here. So I could put this at exactly 10 inches, or 5, wherever it works, and then now it's going to cut exactly at that spot. And you can change where it takes the position from. So right now it's in the middle, but I could make it the bottom left corner, and then I can make this be exactly 1 inch from the bottom and then 1 inch from the side, and now it'll cut out exactly at that spot. So different things you can do. I'll probably just place this by hand right up there. That'll be a good spot to cut. So yeah, that's pretty much everything. Wherever you have this set up on the page is where it's going to actually cut. So you can place it wherever you want, and it will cut out right there. So now we're good to go ahead and go into the printer settings. So I'm going to hit File, Print, and then start setting up the printer settings. Alright, so now it's done cutting. I'm going to go ahead and take the vinyl out of here, and then I'm going to explain how to weed the vinyl, which basically means peel up all the stuff that you don't want to be a part of your sticker. So I'm going to flip these rollers down now, pull this out, and then take it over to this table here and weed the vinyl. So when you're weeding the vinyl, it makes it a little bit easier to cut out your actual sticker, because sometimes you can cut multiple stickers on here, so cut them all and separate them. And then what I'm going to do is, normally I start in the bottom corner here with an X-Acto knife and get the edge of this peeled up. And when you're peeling the vinyl, what you want to do is go slowly, because if you rip it off, what's going to happen is your sticker might come off with it and then you'll never get it back on there. So I'm just going to do this slowly, and if any pieces start to come up with, like right here, I'll just kind of push it back down and then keep peeling it. And any other parts, like the two edges of the pitchfork here started to come up, I'll just make sure those stick back down and then keep going all the way through. And then once you get the end done, or the outside done, then what I'll do is I'll peel the inside. Now it doesn't matter what order you go in, you can do whatever order you want. Alright, so now that's done. I'm going to go ahead and get all this interior stuff out of here, because we don't want that to be a part of it. And again, hold down certain parts just in case they move a little bit. Alright, so now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and use the transfer paper to remove the sticker from the backing paper and stick it onto wherever I want to put it. So when I do this, normally I cut this down a little bit more. That way we waste as little transfer paper as possible. Also, the transfer paper is included in the cost of the vinyl, so if you buy it from us, it will be included in the cost. Right. And then what I normally like to do is I'll lay the sticker down onto here with the sticky part of the transfer paper up. And the reason I do that is because it makes it easier to make it so that there's no bubbles in this when you put the paper on here. So I just kind of put it on here, lay it down like that, and then I'll cut a piece of this off. And then I'm going to grab a squeegee, and then again just kind of start from one side and work your way over. And then once that's on there, I will cut the outside of the transfer paper off, and again make sure that you don't cut part of your sticker, because then it'll kind of ruin it. Now you can either take this with you and put it on wherever you're going to put it, either on your car or your laptop or whatever project you're working on, or you can put it on right now. So when you put it on, if you take it with you, I would just use a credit card and go over it again, because sometimes the transfer paper isn't super sticky. But again, when you're doing this, the goal is to take the transfer paper off and have the sticker stay on the transfer paper so you can put it on something. So again, go slowly, because if parts of it stay on like that's doing right there, just kind of put it back down and then make sure it comes up with it. And then once this is on here, you'll just lay this onto whatever you're going to stick it on. Like if I put it on the table here, I will again start at one side, get it lined up, and then just stick it down. Also clean whatever surface you're going to put it on, because if it's dusty, then the vinyl's not going to stick to it. And then, like right now, this table's dusty, so it's not going to stick to it. And now the vinyl sticker is on the table here. So that is how you weed the vinyl.